What's up guys, Cwesolo here, and today we are back for another video on how to code in C#. Last time around we covered static classes, how they work, how you can put static methods in them, and how you can kind of use these to make a whole bunch of series of really helper methods to maybe do some calculations or stuff like that. It's just a static class, which means that there's only one of this class. There are no instances of this class. There's only one of them, and all the methods in there's only one of those also. There only can be one of these, unlike normal classes, which is what we're going to be covering today. Is a normal class. Normal classes, there can be many instances of them. You could even make arrays of them if you'd like. And you can make really as many classes or class objects, right? This object, you can make as many of them as you want, right? And that's one of the cool things about classes, is that they can also have a whole bunch of methods within them to hold and store data and do calculations, all sorts of different stuff, right? So that's really what we're going to be working with today, is a class, or as you can call it, an instance class, because you could have many instances of this class. So what we're going to do to start this off is we're going to go back to our tutorial series here, whatever the project name is, and we're going to right click on it, and we are going to add a new item, and we are going to make a class again, and we are going to name this, how do we want to name this? I guess we'll go with student, because we'll do a student class. So that's what we're going to name it. We're going to name it student, and we're going to hold some data in it. Just a note, this tutorial is going to be a bit longer than the other ones. There's really a lot to unpackage here, and this is critical for object-oriented programming. So this video is going to be significant. It's not going to be significantly longer, but it is going to be a longer tutorial, I guess you can say. So we're going to make student, student .cs, and this is going to open up, and we have our student class. We're going to quickly make this class public. We do want this class to be viewable. You can make private classes as well that can only, I guess, be viewed, but we're going to work with a public class today. Actually, I'm honestly not sure if we even need the public context. So we're going to just leave that as is. We should be able to go ahead and do this. And real quickly here is we're going to start off with making some basic data within this class. So for a student, we might want to hold their ID number, maybe their grades, stuff like that. So we're going to start off with creating some private variables that are going to be held within this class, and then we'll be able to access this data through accessors and modify the data through setters. And this is some of the object-oriented programming concepts that we're going to be really grasping today. And we're also going to be making a constructor also, so that way when we call the class, we can construct it, right? Normally these things do have a default constructor, but we're going to be overloading it, which is basically when you take a method of the same name and you overload it. We talked about this within our last video, I think, when we overloaded rect area here. We overloaded this constructor, or not this constructor, this method with a separate method. We're going to be doing that here again, so with a student, and we're going to have several overloads for the class itself. We're going to have two constructors, and yeah, so let's just get into it. We're going to make a private int, and it's going to be called ID number. That's what it's going to be called. We're gonna just declare it for now. We're not going to set it to anything just yet. We're going to make a private. We're going to make a char array to hold the letter grade of the students' classes. We're going to assume that there's only 8 classes, so we're going to go ahead and make a private char array called grades, and it is going to be equal to new char array of size 8. We're going to assume that this is a high school student, which typically they have 8 classes. So there is our grades. We might want to also hold some data on maybe how much money they owe, if there's any kind of debt owed to the school. So we might want to call that outstanding funds. So we're going to go ahead and make a private double. We're going to call it we'll call it debt for now. And we're gonna just set that as a private double. And so these are our private variables. These are our private variables. And these are all going to hold various different data that is important for maybe a student, right? And what we're going to be doing from here is we are going to make a constructor. This default constructor that we're going to make is not going to take in any data. It's just going to be a basic constructor. It's going to set a couple things, and that's really what it's going to do. So let's go ahead and make this default constructor. So we're going to start off with making, we're going to name it student. We're going to put the curly braces, or not the parentheses, open it up, not like that. We're going to open it up with curly braces, like so. And then as you can see, everything's going to go away. We're going to set the ID number to 0. We're going to go ahead and set the grades. We're going to assume we're not going to do anything with the grades. We're going to just keep it as an empty an empty array for now. We're not doing anything with it. So let's go ahead and make another, let's make debt equal to 0. And that's all we're going to do for this one, is we're going to just do that. Now we're going to make another constructor that is going to take in the student ID only. So we're going to take an int, we're going to call it ID. We're going to open this thing up, and we're going to just set the ID number that we have here equal to ID. And that's all we're doing there. And we'll while we're at it, we'll just set debt to 0. That's automatically going to be 0. Normally students don't take on debt when they are maybe first enrolled. Maybe the debt was paid. If there's any outstanding debt, you may want to put that in a separate constructor. So that's what we're going to do, is we're going to go ahead and make a third constructor, and we are going to make a we're going to make int ID, and this is something you can do. They don't need this ID variable is only within these methods, if we remember that from when we covered the static methods episode. And note that this when we get to methods in this class, right, and we want to make sure that these are actually public. We want to be able to access these, so we're going to make these public methods here. There we go, and we're going to go ahead and set a couple things here. We're going to set the ID number equal to ID once more. We're going to want to make sure that we are going to be taking a double debt here, and we're going to also be putting that in. So we're going to go capital debt is equal to lowercase debt. And then we're going to make a fourth constructor that takes in a grade array. That way we can, if in the event we may not have a student already constructed, we want to be able to put the grades in also while we're at it. So we'll go ahead and make a fourth constructor, and we're going to have int ID, double debt. We'll actually have a fifth constructor with char array. We'll name it grades lowercase, and then we'll go ahead and open this up and go ahead and go int we'll go ID number is equal to ID, debt is equal to debt, and grades, capital grades, is equal to grades. Not that kind of grades, the other kind of grades, lowercase grades. And then we're going to make one more constructor. Actually, you know what? For now, this will be fine. I think that this is this right here is fine, because we can always just enter in 0 for the debt. And I think we don't want to really do. I mean, we could do as many constructors as we need, but I think for this tutorial, we kind of get the point that we can continue to make constructors and continue to overload our other constructors with more data being put in for each one. I think this here is enough. So from here, what we're going to do is we're going to make a way for us to change the ID number or set the ID number if in the event that we need to set the ID number. So let's do that. We're going to go public public. We're gonna name it int. Actually, it'd be a void. Set ID number. It's gonna take in an int ID, and we're gonna open this up, and we're gonna just simply, for this is very, very simple. All we're gonna do is just ID number equals ID, just like that. Pretty simple, and that's pretty much that. We're gonna make another public void, and we are gonna make to set the det if we need to. Void set det. We're gonna take in a double lowercase det, and we are gonna go ahead and just set. So we're gonna do det equals det. Simple as that. Which is pretty simple. And we're gonna also make another void class to set a grade, and we're also gonna want it to also do another one where we can modify the grades also. So all these methods are indeed going to be public, but if in the event that we did need a private method, we could make a private method, do some calculations within this class, right? But for this class in particular, we don't need to do that, simply because all these things need to be accessed by the school, right, in this case. So all of these methods in this are going to be public. That way we can access them. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and continue on from here. And we're going to make a public set. We're going to make a void again, set grade. And we are going to take an int. We're going to name it class number, right? And we're going to take in a char grade. Or we'll go char letter grade. And then we'll go ahead and take grades array at class number is going to equal the letter grade. And then that way we can set a specific letter grade in from whatever class that grade needs to be. Then from here, we are going to make another public void, and we're going to set all grades. And then what this will do is it'll take in really an array and just set them equal to each other. So that way we can just set all the grades in one go. And then that's what we're going to do. So public void set grades, and it is going to take in a char array named grades, and we are going to simply just grades equals grades. And then there we go. All right, now that we have our nice little set ones, we're going to want to also be able to get these things, right? Because we might need to get the student ID number for some reason, and we can change the ID, we can set the det, we can get the grades, and we could set the grades, right, and set an individual grade and set all the grades if you have an array, obviously. But we have no way of actually getting this data back to us, right? Because these are private variables, and we aren't going to be able to access these all willy-nilly. So we need to make a way for us to get these things. And these are all setters here, so we're going to need to make some getters. And that's really what we're going to do. As our next step is to get the data that we already have stored in this class. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to make a public int, and we're going to make it get ID number. It's going to take in nothing. You're just going to simply be returning ID number. And that's it. Pretty simple. That's a pretty simple setter or getter. And we're going to make a public double. We're going to also, quickly name it get det. Like so. It's not going to take in anything. It's just going to simply return the det, just like so. And now for getting the grades, now we may want to get a grade from a specific course, right? And we also may want to just return all the grades. So we're actually have two different, we're going to have actually two different getters for the grades because we have an array of the grades of the class, right? So we're going to really want to make sure that we have two of these things. So for the next one here, we are going to be taking in some input, and we're going to make it a public char. And for this one, it is going to just simply be returning a char, right? And we are going to name it get grade, right? And it is going to take in a int class number, and it is going to return grades at a specific class number, like so, and that's all that's there. That's all we have to do there is just return that that value, right? And we may also want to get all the grades, so we are gonna be returning that also. So let's go ahead and make a public char, and we're gonna name it get grades. Go ahead and open that up, return grades, and we'll just return this entire array just like so, and we could just return the entire array up here and just return it all. So yeah, we also might want another help function to actually physically see the grades where it just prints them all out. So we're going to go ahead and make another kind of getter in a sense, but we're going to name it public void name it print grades, and it is going to take in nothing, and it is going to go and it's going to simply just return each of the grades. We're going to do this using a for loop, so it's going to be for int I. I forgot my parentheses, equals 0, I is less than grades dot length I plus, like so. And we are going to want to go console.writeLine grades at I. And this will print out all of the grades for all the grades for the student in a way that you can read. And I actually forgot one minor thing here is a way to pay debt. So we're gonna go back up here and between our setters and getters, and we're gonna go ahead and go public void pay debt, and this is gonna be taking in a double payment. That's what we're gonna call it, double payment. And we are going to simply go debt equals payment, or debt equals debt minus payment, just to simply take the debt and minus it, and then it'll just set it to a new value. And now we can change all of the things that are here. We can even get all the grades and such. And yeah, so that's pretty cool. Let's go back to our program and let's make a couple students. So we are going to go ahead and make student equals new student, like so. And now we can make a new student. I forgot to name the student. We're going to name it student1. And now we have a new student. And this is going to just use our base constructor, right? This is not taking in any data. It is just going to make a simple student like that. We're going to go ahead and make another student. We're going to input some data into them. So we're going to go student student2 equals new student, and we're going to pass in an ID number of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now this student has an ID number, because if we go back to here, we did have an ID one. Let's make student 3 student 3 equals new student, and we are going to set his ID to, and he's going to have a debt of 14.32, like so. And now the student has some outstanding debt. And we're going to make a fourth student where we are going to pass in all of this data in this fourth one, which I have to quickly make a char array real quick. So let's go and put char array grades, that's what we're going to name it for now, equals, we'll go ahead and do that and put C, B, A, I forgot my commas there, so I'm getting some red squigglies. D, I don't know. The student's GPA is going to be all over the place. Let's see here. F, A. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I need 2 more. A. I did not mean to do that. My bad. B. And I think I might have all 8 of them here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There. Okay. So we have 8 things here, and we're going to just simply pass in this array now. So I'm going to make student 4 equals new student. Their ID number is going to be some random value. Their debt is going to be 50.32 cents, and we're going to just pass in grades. And as we can see, we have students. Now we have student 1 through 4. We can also make a student array if we wanted to, which is kind of neat. So you can go student array equals new student array of 10. And you can do some pretty cool stuff here after I give it a name. So we're going to name it class. And, you can have a whole class of students, not to be confused with this class, but we can have an entire array of students where we can set the data and stuff like that individually, obviously. But for now, let's go ahead and let's have some fun here. So as you can see, we can get all of the stuff from students. So we can go student 1, and we can do dot. And let's say we wanted to, set his ID number. And we're going to set the ID number, and we're going to set it equal to, that's his ID now. And now let's go ahead and grab his ID number. So we're going to do console.writeLine. We're going to go student 1.get ID number. And we're going to go ahead and do that. I forgot my parentheses there. We need another one. And now let's see what happens here. So it should just return the ID number, and using the method that we have created. And as you can see, we did put its ID number in, and we do get that out. Let's go ahead and try getting student 4's grades. Student 4 dot get grades. We're gonna really want to get these back here, and I want to make sure I'm using the right one, because we're gonna actually want to use print grades. So we're gonna go and get print grades, and we're gonna get those back. And as you can see, we are gonna get, oh, there's all their grades. There is actually something I did forget. We could have made an extra method actually getting GPA and creating the GPA of a student. So let's go ahead and do that. And this will actually be our first private method, and we'll have a setter and a getter for it. Well, not a setter, but it's going to calculate the GPA, GPA, and we would obviously have to make a scale for this, but for now, we just want to make a private calculate GPA, right? And this is going to have to really take in some data. do this. So we already have a char array. We'd have to set a scale for each of the things in the char array. Honestly, I don't really think it's worth going through in this tutorial because we're already at 25 minutes, but we could have, in theory, a private method here to calculate and a getter to get the GPA of a student. But this tutorial is already going on for 25 minutes. So yeah. But really, these are all separate, and we can do various different things with them. We have print grades, and we can go through and use individually our methods, right? So let's say we have student 3. We're going to pay his debt. We're going to go student 3. We're going to pay some of his debt off. And we're going to go ahead and do dot pay debt, and we're going to pay, you know, $12.30, right? We're going to pay $12.30 on that. And we're going to actually really quickly after that get student 3's debt real quick. So we're going to go student 3. We're going to just do console right line student 3 dot get debt. I forgot my parentheses once more. And I'm going to actually copy this and real quickly because we're going to be able to see here that we're going to see the debt before and after. So let's go ahead and run this again. And as you can see, we have their debt before, and now here's their debt after, $2.01. This seems weird because we have an extra 0 and it's going 1999999. There's actually an interesting reason for that. It should be 202. And this is a completely different subject, but doubles actually are not perfectly accurate, and this is why this is 2.01999999. It's actually 2.02, but doubles aren't perfectly accurate, and this is why this seems to be the case. Actually, if we wanted to do this correctly, we would be using the decimal type instead of a double. So, but for this proof of concept, this is 100% fine. So yeah, that is classes. That's how they work. Unfortunately, this tutorial is a bit longer, and there's a lot to unpack here. But as you can see, we have some setters, and we have some setters, and we have some getters. We can make a new method here for calculating the GPA. We can make a private a method if we wanted. In between these two, we can go ahead and go, you know, private. And, you know, in theory, we'd actually keep these separated from each other, and we would go down here and go private, you know, void calc GPA. And this would automatically calculate our GPA, you know, whenever it was called. We could even have it you know, be called at random by some other method, or just or have this be like a public method and calculate the GPA. Or what we can do is when we go to get the GPA, right? If we were to get an array of the, not an array, but if we were to make another getter, we can make public get GPA, right? GPA is a double, right? Double get GPA. And we were to do that every time we were to get the GPA, we could simply, you know, calculate it, right? Because we're going to need to calculate it at some point. So we'd go, you know, calculate GPA, and then after that we would return GPA. And then this would call the method to calculate it, and then it would set the new value for the GPA, and then we could just calculate this, and then it would return it. And we could even have an if statement in here to maybe, you know, determine whether or not the GPA currently exists, and then return that, or check if there's been a change in the array of the character array. Check if there's been any changes from a previous character array, and you could do this by making maybe 2 character arrays, and keep a previous track, and once there's a change, then that would be its own thing. You could really make this more complex than really what is beyond that is beyond the scope of this tutorial. But yeah, that is classes. We have a couple more forms of classes that we do need to cover still, namely abstract classes, which we will be covering next. But these are how classes work, and this is an instance. We have many instances of a single class. We can pass data in, we can use overloaded constructors, and implement more data into this, have private variables, and we can get them through getters and set them through setters. Obviously, you don't need these things. If you wanted to not do the object-oriented programming route and not do setters and getters, you could totally do that. But this leads to more organized code, and you can clearly see that what's going on. And many of these methods are very, very simple. These are very simple methods. Like, there isn't really much code going into these, maybe except for print grades. But by this point, this should be very easy for you to handle, to be able to handle these things. So yeah, but yeah, that's how these work. This is really what an instance class does, and these do lead the way to data structures. So we may be covering those at some point in the future as a general video, maybe not a strict coding video, but yeah. So that's gonna pretty much wrap up this how to code video. If you guys did like the video, leave a like, comment if you have anything to say, any comments or questions that you have. Be sure to leave a like if you found this helpful and enjoyed it. Dislike it if you found this video to be complete utter trash. Some of you may find it to be complete utter trash, maybe too long, but it is important for you to understand this if you are wanting to get into coding or game development. Be sure to click that subscribe button if you like this kind of content, if you want to see more game development videos and stuff like that, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.